Michigan freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood has heard the rumors that he's leaving for LSU amid all the turmoil at Michigan. We will tell you what he said, and I'll give you my analysis of the whole situation. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button. By the way, we hit 18,000 over the weekend. Thank you. Now the push to 20,000 before football season. Share, like, and follow so you don't miss a single episode. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So Bryce Underwood speaks. Actually, he tweeted or posted. We'll get to all that. A huge recruiting weekend for football around the Big Ten this weekend. And we have our top 10 observations, all softball, all the Big Ten teams. We had so many Big Ten teams in the NCAA tournament. We'll get you caught up on all of that. But a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Bryce Underwood. And I'll just tell you right now, he's not going anywhere for now. We wondered aloud here on Locked On Big Ten how Michigan's five-star freshman quarterback would react to head coach Sherrone Moore's 2-game self-imposed suspension for Spygate. In all, we thought it wouldn't be great for the quarterback who is still yet to turn 18 years old. He does that in August. But, you know, it looks like he's going to be the day one starter, and he's right in the middle of all this. And it would be tough to not have his head coach with him for weeks 3 and 4. Those are the weeks when Moore would take his suspension as of right now. However, in the end, we thought, look, it's not the greatest situation in the world for a young quarterback. I think ultimately he'll be able to navigate the situation just fine in Ann Arbor. But we also speculated, hey, what if Michigan's Spygate hearing June 6th and June 7th with the NCAA comes back and they say, look, Sherrone Moore's 2-game suspension, that's not enough. We want more. We want to pull more out of the Michigan situation. So, I mean, look, Jim Harbaugh, they didn't like him. He got a 4-year show cause penalty for Burgergate. Assistant Steve Clinkscale got 2 years. Defensive coordinator there got 1 year, Jesse Minter. So is the NCAA going to be satisfied with just a couple of games for Sherrone Moore? And remember, Moore was already suspended a game, part of the first 3-game suspension of Jim Harbaugh and Burgergate. They look at Moore as a multi-time offender. They don't look too kindly on that in the NCAA. So he very well could get more time than the self-imposed 2-game suspension. You never know with the NCAA. What if it's a half a season? What if it's an entire season? With questions like that, we started to ask on our podcast last week about Bryce Underwood's long-term prospects in Ann Arbor. If Moore was gone, would Underwood be gone as well? It's our job to ask these kind of questions, even though there were numerous Michigan fans that let me have it in the comment section. They do that all the time. There's a small but vocal percentage out there that can't handle an honest conversation. So, most of you are fine. A lot of you are fine. But I got to remind those people that don't like it, it's our job here at Locked On Big Ten to talk about such things. So the one thing we did point out was whether Moore was gone or not. Schools like LSU and other schools, they're always going to be reaching out to Underwood, no matter how long he stays there. If he finishes his entire career there, say he has 4 glorious years along the way, schools are going to try and poach him and take him away, whether Sherrone Moore's suspended or not. But a lot of them are going to call him up right now and go, hey, man, we don't have problems with coaches being suspended. Why don't you come on by? Let's transfer. Let's flip. And by the way, we know your price. You got your big $12.5 million name, image, and likeness deal. All right, we got 15 mil now. We know your price now. Here it is. That's going to happen no matter what. It is happening no matter what. It's a very real scenario in college football right now. But then moving on to last week, there was some message board chatter, which I always take with a grain of salt. That said, Underwood was not happy with the way his payments were or were not coming with name, image, and likeness, and that he and his mother would be visiting LSU this summer. That rumor was apparently started by Ohio State fans. Shocker, right? Wishful thinking on their part. And maybe they should worry a little bit more about, beating Michigan for the first time in 5 years. Again, it was message board stuff, so we did not report on it last year. Even though I read through it all with great interest, I said, there's not enough to go on here. We're not going to do that here on Lockdown Big Ten. But it became rampant. The internet exploded with it. It was some news people were talking about for a couple of days. In fact, it got to Underwood. And at one point, he felt the need to comment on it on X or Twitter. And he wrote, quote, LOL, y'all say anything on social media, unquote. Boom. Rumors squashed, at least for now, right? So the NCAA hearing in June is a real possible threat here for Michigan. And they know it too. Otherwise, they would not have self-imposed a 2-game suspension on Sherrone Moore. So while it doesn't seem like they have to worry about Bryce Underwood, it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. The Sherrone Moore situation could get very interesting here this summer. And we talked about this on a podcast a couple of weeks ago as well. Keep in mind, unlike the Harbaugh suspensions, where he was allowed to coach and practice Sunday through Friday, he just couldn't coach on the sidelines on Saturday. Sherrone Moore is different. He will not have any contact with his football team for 2 solid weeks. No practice, no film, no meetings, no games, nothing. Again, much different than the Harbaugh situation. So, given that Michigan gave itself that self-imposed penalty and a little more stiffer than what Harbaugh went through, I think that Michigan thinks something's up. I think they're worried. I really do. And this might not be the end of Spygate. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe there'll be a stiffer penalty. Maybe they'll say, okay, the 2-game suspension's fine. Once this hearing is over, again, this is the first week of June, the NCAA will then have 45 days to give its final response, its final punishment, its final saying in all of this. That 45 days takes us to the opening day of Big Ten Media Days in Las Vegas. That's where all the coaches and select players from each team and athletic directors and Commissioner Tony Petitti all gather in front of the media for question and answer sessions. And it's the official kickoff of the 2025 season. And that will be the time. It could be sooner, but it'll be up. Usually NCAA waits to the end of whatever period it has. The NCAA will probably let us know right before Big Ten Media Days what they think about the Sherrone Moore 2-game suspension, whether they want more, and whether Spygate is done, over with, or whether we still have to deal with it moving into the future. Promises to be interesting no matter what. Hit me up with the comments now because I know they're coming. They're coming. Just go ahead and hit them. Also, be sure to hit that free subscribe button if you don't mind. Now we begin. Now that we get to 18,000, thanks to you, we're going to make our push to 20,000 for the start of the football season so that you never miss an episode. Hit subscribe. It's free. Share, follow, and like Lockdown Big Ten, please. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com, where we put all of our podcasts chronologically. We also group them by teams. And at the bottom, you can click on get your favorite team merchandise. You want some Michigan shirts, hats, T-shirts for the 2025 season? Right there. Go ahead to Talk Big Ten and check that out. TalkBig10.com. We'll help you out with all of that. All right. Plenty to get to. Well, we'll have our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. It's going to be, this is how we're going to use it to catch up on all the softball, the 8 teams that made the NCAA tournament from the Big Ten. A lot of recruiting news, though. A lot of recruiting news. We're going to run through it rapid fire for your favorite school. This is a big recruiting weekend coming up here at the end of May, beginning of June. So we will check all that out. That's next here on Locked On Big Ten. You ever come through a weekend and go, man, where'd all my money go in my checking account? Maybe you've been dining out all weekend. Maybe you've been entertaining yourself, online shopping. It's easy to lose track. That's why you need Monarch Money. It is your personal CFO giving you full responsibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, your spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money, but you start building wealth with all their insights that they have to help you out with your finances, insights on what you're doing with your money, all in one convenience. You bring in all your multiple apps from everything you're trying to keep track of all in one place. Even your spouse or significant other, bring it in the same place that you have it. Take control of your finances. Check it out. Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. And of course, we're free and available everywhere out there. Well, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. Check out our website, talkbig10.com as well. Let's get you caught up on some recruiting. Lots of stuff going on here. Let's start with Michigan State. We got Michigan State. We got Washington Huskies. We got Indiana. We got UCLA news. We're all of Ohio State. We'll get it. We'll get to it right here. Michigan State. Jonathan Smith. He's looking to get an in-state 4-star running back for his class of 2026. Corey Amatri. He is from Haslet, Michigan. He is expected to commit to the Spartans. Although he is considering Indiana and Kansas, Pitt, and Harvard. Must be a smart guy, Harvard. He is expected to take an official visit with the Spartans on June 1st. Again, many expect him to choose Sparty. Speaking of running backs, the Ohio State Buckeyes, they crank out NFL caliber running backs every single year. Do you know that they have not landed a single commit from a running back for the class of 2026? It's kind of quirky. They'll get it solved. Not worried about it. They have several targeted. But 4-star Derek Cooper seems like he's leaning toward Georgia instead of the Buckeyes right now. There's another 4-star out there, Favor Aki. He seems to be leaning to the Buckeyes, so we'll keep an eye on him. The Washington Huskies, they're going to be bringing in a bunch of recruits here at the end of the month. Look, a lot of wide receivers, by the way. There's 4-star wide receiver Vance Spanford from Mission Viejo, California. He was just added to the list. He is currently committed to Georgia, but he's still looking for a landing spot. He'll be visiting other Big Ten schools, USC and UCLA, as well as Miami. That's not all. The Huskies are looking for more receivers. 4-star wide receiver Madden Williams is currently committed to Texas A&M, but he's still looking as well. These verbal commits with these 17-year-olds, they change every day. That's why these coaches, you never give up on a kid, even after he gives a verbal commit somewhere. Look no further than Dylan Raiola last year, all committed, ready to go to Georgia, till he wasn't. Ended up in Nebraska. But Washington's been after this Williams kid for a long time. He's going to visit USC, Florida State, and Texas A&M as well. On the other side of the ball, the Huskies are looking at safety Gavin Day from Nevada. He seems to be leaning toward Washington right now. He's also looking at Iowa, Utah, Arizona. They're all interested in his services as well. Let's talk about PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck. Row the boat. They got their big recruiting weekend coming up. Their annual Summer Splash event is what they call it. Spills into June, but it's this weekend and the next weekend as well. At the center of their recruiting plan, they're going after some 4-stars here. And one kid from Jackson, Minnesota, Roman Voss. He is a 4-star recruit, one of the top 200 players in the country. He's choosing between staying home in Minnesota and whether going to play Alabama. This would be a nice get if they can keep him at home. There is also Illinois safety, Messiah Tilson. I believe we talked about him last week. He's another 4-star that they're hosting, and a handful of 4-stars are coming in. This could be a huge weekend for the Gophers and PJ Fleck if he can close the deal, at least get some commits. Of course, as you know, they're just verbal commits at this point. Early signing day is in December. And the Indiana Hoosiers got some good news. They're going to add 3-star defensive lineman Gabriel Hill, 6'2", 295 linebacker. He is choosing to play for Kurt Signetti in Indiana over Iowa, Illinois, Notre Dame, and a dozen other schools that offered him. Now, he's from Naperville, Illinois, so I thought Illinois was going to have a good chance of getting him. We were just talking about Brett Bielema and how great the program has been. 10 wins last year. Luke Altmaier coming back. New contract for Brett Bielema. 6-year extension. Everything's going great in Illinois, but it doesn't look like they're going to land this kid. Look, he's going to commit to Indiana and go with Kurt Signetti, who's got a whole bunch of great things going on at Bloomington as well. He will be Indiana's 9th member of the class of 2026. During his junior year in high school, he had 44 tackles, 26 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, and 10 hurries. They'll love him down in Bloomington. Got some good news for UCLA. UCLA has been quiet. Now, I know transfer portal news, Nico Iamaleava and his brother coming in to play a quarterback grabbed a lot of headlines, but, that's a transfer of a player already in college football. As far as high school recruits, class of 2026, it has been quiet at UCLA. So they got 3 players this week. So good news there. 3-star defensive lineman Yahya God from Tennessee. He's choosing the Bruins over Georgia and Indiana, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida State, and Missouri. Also North Carolina and Texas were interested. Took his official visit last week, and he said, okay, cool. So they must have showed him the good side of LA, and he had a good time. Looks like he's going to go commit there. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. So that's 3 commits now this week for the class of 2026. I believe all 3 are defensive players, defensive side of the ball. So, but I mentioned at the top how they haven't, I don't think they've had a single verbal commit for class of 2026 since November. It's May. Yeesh. So finally, things are starting to go in the right direction there. They got 7 players for the class of 2026. All right. If you're new to our podcast, welcome aboard. Thank you. If you're one of our new 18,000 subscribers, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, we'd love you to get us toward 20,000 before football season starts. At the end of each day, what makes this podcast unique is we cover all things Big Ten, all 18 teams. We do all the news, analysis of that news, and opinion of that news right here. That's what makes us different and unique from anybody else. Also, we also like to do features at the end of our podcast that they're the same every day. Mondays, we always do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend, which we'll do in a minute. Tuesdays, we do Tuesday tweets. Hit me up on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. You put something amusing out there, I'll put it on the podcast. Wednesdays, we like to power rank stuff. I think we're going to power rank, since it's the off season, I think we're going to power rank the academia of the Big Ten. Yeah. Why not, right? We still pretend to do the student athlete thing. Thursdays, we always look ahead to the Big Ten Network and their programming, Big Ten Classics, and live action, tell you what to watch. And we always do picks, basketball picks, odds, all that kind of stuff on our Friday shows. So we got our top 10 Big Ten observations of the weekend. We got 8 Big Ten teams, softball teams in the NCAA tournament this past weekend. We'll let you know who made it through and sing some praises there. That's all coming up in our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend next, right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's get it fired up here with our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. We're going to highlight all softball here. We're going to use this segment to highlight everything that happened on softball throughout the Big Ten. We'll go full screen here with all this. I want to start off with the Washington Huskies, the Lady Huskies, They started out, by the way, let me just start off by mentioning this. On Friday, the 8 Big Ten teams went 6-2. 6-2 on that first Friday. So off to a great start. Now, Washington was not one of those teams that won. They lost on Friday 6-3 to Mississippi State in the Lubbock Regional, but then they bounced back on Saturday and they beat Brown 13-5. But then they lost the elimination game to Mississippi State 11-10. What a heartbreaker that was. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's talk some Indiana softball. So they were the other team that lost on Friday out of the bye. Everybody else won other than Indiana, Washington. Indiana was in the Fayetteville Regional, and they lost 11-6 to Oklahoma State. But then they came back on Saturday and beat St. Louis 4-2. But they lost in their elimination game 16-8. So their season is over. Now, Ohio State softball on Friday got a 9-6 win over North Carolina in the Knoxville Regional Friday night. And then they lost to Tennessee on Saturday 4-2, but came back and beat Miami 11-1 to stay alive, made it to the championship, and then lost to Tennessee 5-0, unfortunately, there. But nice run there by Ohio State. Nebraska softball. Friday in the Baton Rouge Regional, they won 10-2 over UConn on Friday. They beat Southeast Louisiana 14-1 Saturday, and then they beat them again 8-0 for the regional championship. They're going to the Super Regionals. We're going to talk more about them in just a second. So congratulations to Nebraska softball. More of our observations over the weekend. How about Northwestern softball? They started on Friday with a 4-0 win over Kentucky in the Clemson Regional. But then they lost to Clemson in a magnificent pitching battle, 1-0 on Saturday, 9 innings. And then they lost to Kentucky 8-3 in the elimination game. If it wasn't for that 1-0 game against Clemson in the Clemson Regional. Otherwise, it might have turned out differently for Northwestern. Let's go on to number 5, Michigan softball, the Big Ten tournament champions. They had a 4-3 win over Central Florida on Friday in the Austin Regional. But then Texas beat Michigan on Saturday soundly 16-4. And then UCF beat Michigan in an elimination game 10-8. So that all came crashing to a halt for the Lady Wolverines. UCLA softball, always good, always strong. They had their own regional there in Los Angeles. They started on Friday by beating UC Santa Barbara 9-1. 6 runs in the 6th inning to do that, by the way. Then they beat San Diego State 10-0 on Saturday to make it into the championship round. We'll talk more about them in just a second, because I also want to mention Oregon softball and what they did in their own Eugene Regional. They beat Weber State on Friday in 5 innings, 8-0. Stanford beat Oregon 14-1 Saturday, but then Oregon came back and beat Weber State 9-1 in the elimination game. So that sets us up here. I want to mention Oregon and UCLA softball right here in the number 2 spot. They made it into their regional championships. At the time of this taping for our Monday podcast on Sunday night, the ladies were still in action. So we'll regroup at tomorrow's podcast and see if Oregon and UCLA will then join Nebraska in advancing to a super regional of the NCAA tournament, because Nebraska did it. That's official. They're good to go. Congratulations to them and their phenomenal seasons. Things were looking good with Oregon and UCLA when I checked when we took to the airwaves here to tape this podcast here tonight. So hopefully coming tomorrow, we'll be talking about 3 Big Ten teams making it into the super regionals. But we got at least Nebraska as of this taping. That's exactly what we know right now. So there we have it. Those are our top 10 Big Ten observations, kind of tweaking the format just a little bit. Wanted to use it here to go ahead and highlight all the action going on with softball over the weekend. So congratulations on all of them. A record 8 Big Ten teams making it into the NCAA tournament. That was phenomenal representation for the Big Ten. So that's good. But anyway, wanted to do that and check all them out and talk about all of them just a little bit for what they did here over the weekend. Maybe you caught some of it. I was flipping around on the channels. Maybe you saw some of it as well. There are many ways for you to interact with this podcast. And first of all, there's Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. In fact, I'll put our little banner back on the bottom there. Talk Big Ten, number 10. Twitter, don't forget tomorrow, Tuesday tweets. Hit me up on there. I'll put you on the podcast. We also have our website, talkbig10.com. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. We put all of our podcasts there. You can go back forever and check them out. Chronologically, we group them by schools or teams as well. And then at the bottom, go click on and get your favorite Big Ten merchandise. Celebrate your team, your school's softball season or the upcoming football season with merchandise there. TalkBig10.com. It's just a click away right there. Also, I ask you to hit that subscribe button down below. If you're new, we took over this channel less than 2 years ago. We started with 1,000 subscribers, which we were thankful to get. And I wondered in my mind, man, can we get to like 2,000 before football season starts? We're less than 2 years later. We're up to 18,000. And I want to hit 20,000 before the start of this fall football season. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. That way you'll never miss a single episode. We'll be together, you and me, every day, talking all things Big Ten. Also invite you to go back for a second listen, check out some podcasts maybe you missed if you don't catch us every single day. I get it. It happens. But we are here every day. And with that, we always ask you to invite your friends. I know if you're interested in Big Ten, you've got some friends or family member that are probably also interested or fans of Big Ten teams. Let them know we're out here every single day. That would be great. Word of mouth. Thank you very much if you could do that. In the meantime, I also invite you to tune in for a second listen for our friend Brian Smith. Brian Smith, he's a recruiting guru, but he's got a podcast called The Portal Show. And all things transfer portal. Who's going where? Who's coming? He's all over the place. He's got it all dialed in at one podcast called The Portal Show. So feel free to check him out. That way you'll be the most informed fan. Who's coming? Who's going? Throughout all of college football. You can find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. That'll do it for us here today. We're just starting on a big, big week. Tomorrow, we're going to look. Something Kirby Smart said at Georgia that got my attention. He says, once we get all this revenue sharing and all this stuff dialed in, schools are going to have to start cutting some sports and even some popular ones. And we're going to talk about that in tomorrow's podcast as well. So some sports you wouldn't think would be canceled might be on the chopping block. We'll do all that. So check us out tomorrow. Thank you for spending some time with us here today. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Shemon. We'll talk to you tomorrow.